Yeah.
Now I'm going to start. Right. Let's start the program. Welcome to this session of conversations. Once again, uh, we have a great pleasure. I have great pleasure in being able to welcome Rakesh Sharma. In fact, Rakesh Sharma's introduction just needs to be one line. Here is Rakesh Sharma, and that's good enough.
Yeah,
Uh, I was talking to someone the other day,
yeah,
4 days back, and he said, "Oh, Rakesh Sharma, we when we hear Rakesh Sharma's name, we think of competitive examinations, quiz contests, textbooks. That's where I've seen him. I've not seen him live, but here he is. Here he is live in uh, in a live session, which is a great thing for us. And let me just spotlight Rakesh Sharma, spotlight for everyone. Here he is. So you can see he's face to face, although on Zoom.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
uh,
Yes.
welcome to this group. Normally, our group consists of persons
thank you.
75 plus. And when we, as I said, when we think of planets and planetary positions, we think of it in a very different sense. Not in terms of astrology, not in terms of astronomy, but more of astrology. Uh, but this is a different session altogether. I also have with us Nitin Gadpandi and Shyama Narendranath, both from uh, with very long and rich experience in ISRO, and who have been. Shyama is right there, right now, working on space uh, aspects of space exploration. And Nitin has been there for a long, long time with rich experience. So they are going to be here in conversation with Rakesh Sharma. And the three of them will discuss. And the format will be that after the discussion, 45 minutes or 50 minutes or so, we will have some time for our members, a large number of members who have come to put some questions. And I would request you to use the chat box, start writing your questions as the discussion goes along. And if Shama feels that at some stage that question is directly relevant to what you are discussing, then she can immediately read out that question. And you can take it up right there instead of waiting till the end. So I will play it by the ears, let the discussion go on. Um, we have a younger crowd today, young students, working scientists, even special invitees, close relatives of some of our members, including mine. So, welcome to all of you. Welcome to uh, everyone here. We also have Anil. I want to specially mention Anil's name, Anil Kumar Sangru. Anil represents three organizations. He represents the amateur astronomy group. He represents a group called Astrobits, and he represents the Nasik HAL group. So, welcome to all the three groups also. Let me now, as is the custom here with us, request Kishori to formally say a few words of welcome and introduce Rakesh. Kishori, it's all yours.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir. Good evening to one and all. It's my great pleasure to introduce our guest for today, being Commander Rakesh Sharma. On behalf of all Athashriyans, इन महान हस्ती को हमारा सलाम सलाम सर आपको Though most of us are familiar with Rakesh ji, but as a part of our program, I take this opportunity to say a few words about him. He joined the National Defense Academy in July 1966 and was commissioned into the Indian Air Force. In 1970, he joined the Indian Air Force as a test pilot. He flew 21 combat missions in a MiG 21 in the Bangladesh War in 1971. In 1982, he was selected as a cosmonaut for the Joint Soviet Indian Space Flight Program. On April 3rd, 1984, he flew Soyuz T-11 to space as a joint program between the Indian Space Research Organization ISRO and Soviet Intercosmos program. His most memorable conversation from space with the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi when she asked how India looks from up there. He replied proudly, Sare jahan se acha. He is the first Indian to receive the honor of the Hero of Soviet Union award. He also received Ashok Chakra award. He retired from the Indian Air Force as a wing commander and later joined HL in 1987, serving as a chief test pilot in the Nasik division until 1992. Later, he moved to Bangalore and worked as a HL's chief test pilot. He retired from flying in 2001. He is now non-executive chairman of Bangalore-based Cladida Labs. At present, he is involved with Gaganyaan project, which is going to be launched in 2022. It is a challenge one for him, for everyone. Being a part of this National Advisory Council, his inputs will definitely add value to ISRO efforts. On behalf of all the Athashians, I would like to extend our good wishes to your Gaganyaan project. Sir, thank you for the sparing your precious time with us. Now, may I request Raja sir to take over?
Thank you for your kind words, Kishoriji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kishori. Thank you, Kishori.
Our best wishes are there for your future project.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I shall not go over the bio sketch of Nitin Gatpande and Shyama, which has already been circulated, so that is taken as read. I just would like to add a couple of things about them, which is not in the biodata, which is perhaps not known to many of you. And Nitin has been, of course, in the in ISRO for a long time, and he has been lecturing. He's been adjunct faculty, the College of Engineering in Pune, and he's been a senior consultant for Centre of Electronics in Bangalore. He has also been a mentor for startups, and he's at very large number of seminars, publications, to his credit, and awards, which are too numerous to be mentioned here. And so he's a very, very distinguished scientist in this field. And I'm so happy that he's able to join us. And of course, not directly related to this, is his other passion is Hindustani classical music. So Nitin, welcome. Shyama. Shyama is uh, has at ISRO, she is known to have introduced new prospects in mapping the lunar surface chemistry. She's involved in serious probes on the lunar surface. Uh, Quite a few people don't know that she's a devotee of the Ramakrishna mission order, Ramakrishna Vivekananda order, and she has written some articles which, as I was telling Rakesh, I didn't know and she hadn't told me about linking Vivekananda's interpretation of Vedanta and Upanishads with Stephen Hawking's and basics of science. So I read one of those articles which was very interesting. That is one of our passions. The other one is Odissi dance. He's been learning Odissi for many years now from a very famous Odissi dance teacher, Sharmila Mukherjee. She has given several stage performances and also, I think, choreographed some of them and presented them. That's another thing that many of us didn't know about her. So I'm so happy that Shyama is here, and Shyama will be initiating the discussion and you know be the main discussant and drawing both Rakesh Sharma, and Nitin into the discussion and getting them and their resources, their wisdom onto us. Sharma, the floor is yours. The screen is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words and that introduction. And Rakesh ji, really, we really privileged to speak to you directly, and was excited the last few days of this prospect of speaking to you directly.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I did have, I was a bit nervous in the beginning, but speaking to you yesterday, I realized how down to earth you are, which is truly what I, in my opinion, my regard for you has only, manifolded just because, the way you speak to us in spite of your status that you are achieved. We thought we just set the stage by looking at the topic today. So as long as Homo sapiens have walked on Earth, the urge to expand our into new realms of knowledge have been a part of us. Call it the spirit of adventure or plainly a rush of the adrenaline, we have undertaken arduous journeys. Look at even say many centuries before, people like Marco Polo, Columbus, Magellan, just to name a few, set the sails in search of new places that inspired several of such adventurers to experience the world. Then there was the race to reach the pole in the beginning of the 20th century. And many of you would have read of those stories of getting to the South Pole and the North Pole and all the debates about who reached there first. So basically, we do have this innate urge to go places. Then come 1957, Sputnik 1 entered Earth's orbit, and thus began the space age. We were thrown open to a totally new dimension to explore, not just our Earth. So to you, sir, when Rakesh Sharma flew aboard Soyuz T-11 in 1984, the first and the only Indian citizen to do so, it must have really been not just for you, but the whole of the country, like a dream come true, and which all of us are proud of. Is there any special message or an event that you would like to recall which conveyed the country's feeling at that time?
Well, Sharma, this is the way it goes. Whoever goes up into space starts off with looking out the window and looking out for his own country.
Yeah.
And after a few orbits of that, then he starts looking at countries around. And a day or so later, then he starts looking at the Earth as a whole. So while one didn't have very much of free time, but I can tell you that the view is breathtakingly beautiful, because you get to see so many various textures and various, shall we say, deserts and coastlines and forests and colors. And the clarity is really quite high definition, because we really haven't been able to replicate the human eye till today. And so therefore it leaves a tremendous impact. And that is when you look at planet Earth itself. And then you begin to realize, borders are not visible from space, they are man-made. And then that again, you then starts wondering, then why has there been so much of bloodshed for territory and to possess another country's land and resources? So these are the thoughts which go through when you're looking at the Earth. You turn around and look at space, and what do you get to see? You get to see emptiness. You get to see, of course, you can't see vacuum, but you know it's out there. You know that the environment cannot sustain life as we live it. And also that there is no place like planet Earth, at least till as far as the eye can see, and as we discussed yesterday, till as far as the Hubble can show us. So then that triggers the thought that listen, why are we so bent on destroying the only home that we have and are likely to have for quite a few years to come? And I do know that space exploration today is poised to explore Moon and Mars, etc. But we've already got a preview of the kind of landscape we are going to be occupying out there. And it does not bear any comparison whatsoever to the beauty of where we live. And then, so then you start thinking about environmental protection, about sustainability, about the collateral damage of the kind of development we are going through, you know, and I think all of that is a good thought. But having said all that, I must underline the fact that you really don't need to go into space to come by these feelings, because today there are such high resolution photographs. There is so much available on the internet that we pretty much know what is out there, and we also pretty much know fairly accurately the rate at which we are expending our resources. So therefore, I do understand and admit that our generation and the generations which have preceded us have really started utilizing the limited resources, you know, not very carefully, and therefore from this point onwards we really need to be much more careful. So this, in a nutshell, has been my experience.
Thank you. Yeah, you realize how fragile the whole thing is when you see it from a distance.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I've just read that many scientific experiments were performed. I saw in one of your interviews that you said so much of this was tried out while in the lab that pretty much do this very smoothly over there. I was just wondering, like, what were the results of these? Like, there were experiments proposed by Indian scientists as well.
Yeah.
Were they really very useful ones?
Well, I think the way the Indian scientific community approached this opportunity was that here they are getting a chance, although ISRO itself did not have a manned space program, and it, well, does not have it till today, though we are working on it. So they said, here is a chance to do some pure research in that microgravity environment. So the scientific community was tasked to come up with certain experiments. Mostly they were in the field of Earth resources, the imagery itself, which, and we came up with, we used the multispectral camera, which was on board the Salute at that time. That is the MKF camera. And we photographed the Indian landmass, and the data we got out of that then became the kind of a database for 1984, which later was the database against which we read the initial data coming out from our remote sensing satellites. And then in the field of material sciences, it was the intention of our scientists to use the undercooling technique, and that was the advantage provided to us by the microgravity environment, because whenever a crystal is produced within a gravitational environment, then the seed is formed, and then of course the rest of the crystal is not even due to the weight, and therefore here the intention was to try and create something with silver and germanium so that it had optical qualities on the one hand, and at the same time strength of metal. So we did that particular experiment, and we did a lot of other experiments in the biomedical field, because again, when you're on Earth and you know your feet are firmly planted on the ground, or for that matter, you're lying down on a table, it's the vibrations around you which are picked up, and that affects the the ballistics of recordings, and therefore when you are suspended in space, the recordings are much clearer for say the heart condition, both the electrical activity as well as the mechanical activity. So we did some work on that. We did I did yoga.
Yeah, I heard
Again,
of
the
that.
intention was basically to find out whether, because there has always been this problem of space sickness, which, as a lot of people know today, is quite akin to travel sickness, pretty much the same reasons. And then the idea was to find out whether yoga gives you a better preparatory solution to prepare space crews for space flight, because uh, the problem was that firstly, not everybody gets hit by space sickness, just as not everybody gets airsick or not everybody throws up
Yeah.
while traveling on the road. So I was the only guy who did it, to be able to provide a comparative study. Idea was to I stopped training as per the suggested regimen of the Russians about 3 to 4 months prior to the launch, and I prepared myself only doing yoga, and these yogic postures were modified, and I'm sure that if a purist were to see it, he wouldn't have been very impressed. But they were modified to replicate conditions, the effect of zero gravity on the human body, and then in so doing, condition the human body, that is, in my case, condition my human body using the yogic system to be able to better adapt to zero gravity. And whereas my other two crewmates continued doing their way. Now, obviously, you would like to know what was the result.
Right.
So the result was that all of us were as good or as bad as each other. So was it conclusive? Don't know, because statistically the sample is not valid. I could have been one of those guys who wouldn't have fallen sick. In any case, when I started flying, I never got air sick either. So I don't know. So there's more work that needs to be
needs to
done.
be, yeah.
So we did all of that, and more importantly, all the equipment which was used to record these experiments were again designed by the Indian scientific community, manufactured by the Indian scientific community.
Okay.
So I think we utilized this opportunity to the hilt.
Okay. Oh, that's amazing. Like, yeah, I mean, many even today, like we do use quite a lot of imported things, and even instrument wise. So
Yeah, that is to
we
crush the
get
time cycle.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking about you work very closely with the Russians. No, when even today, I too have many collaborative work that I do with foreign agencies and people, scientists there. So very well know that it requires just more than signing documents. You have said in interviews, which I'm sure is because of your humility, that it could have been anyone who just turned out lucky. But there would certainly be a significant component of your character that made this work, the whole program work. And what would you think is?
Well, I would say that I was fired up with excitement. I could easily call upon my adrenaline reserves. I would say that this subject itself generates so much of interest that it really does not need hard work, in the sense that when you're interested in what you're doing, when you're excited about it, whatever work that comes your way, you do not interpret it as being too hard, right?
Yes.
So I think the difficult part really was learning of the Russian language, because time was a constraint, and before we could gain mastery in the language, we were already had started training. So that did not permit us to satisfy our professional curiosity. We didn't have the vocabulary to ask the
Oh,
deeper questions on the one hand, and on the other, uh, the Iron Curtain was up. It was the Soviet Union before perestroika, and therefore the information was not very forthcoming. Everything was on a need to know basis, and at that time the space powers were only Americans and Russians, and we were competition in waiting, so to speak. So naturally, things were kept close to the chest. However, whatever did come our way was exciting enough, and we remained invested right throughout, and that was easy. So that was the easy part. The language was the difficult part, and so we couldn't extract the entire experience as a professional would like to.
Okay. I
It
understand.
didn't come away sated that we've had a good enough look, shall we say.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah. Just hand over it to Ghat Pandey. So, would you like to ask a few questions or converse with him?
Yes, sir. Again, feeling opportune to really talk to you and ask a few queries, possibly. They, Actually, being in power system group of ISRO, we had been working on the various orbits and the sunlit period and eclipse period. So typically we have 100 minutes of orbit and 65 minutes sun is there and 35 minutes sun is not there. So that is all fine. We consider sunlight for solar panel and for battery, but we only know for satellite. But when, sir, you are in space, the day and night, what we know is only for day for solar panel and night for battery, which is about 100 minutes of total orbit, where 65 minutes is a sun, which is visible only to the solar panels. So when, sir, you were there in a really remarkable period of around 7 to 8 days in space, hats off to that. And you see the possibly the actual period in which the spacecraft is going through the sunlit period, we call, is about 65 minutes. And the only way for you to feel that light is only looking at the earth below. I would say below you, depending on the orientation of the spacecraft and depending on where is your view window. So possibly you may see the earth only for a few, say a couple of minutes, or I don't know out of how many, out of the 65 minutes, and possibly see the earth for a 35 minutes of dark period, that is the eclipse. At that point of time, you will see the darkness of the earth. So apart from that, you have been going through the so-called weightlessness or zero G because of the continuous fall or the acceleration which the spacecraft is undergoing. So it is this day and night feeling, which, sir, you have really forgiven. I mean, forbidden. You were forbidden for the last 7-8 days. For those 7-8 days, where we on the Earth are happily, have an orbit, where you were in an orbit of 100 minutes. We all were in an orbit of 24 hours on the surface of the Earth, where 12 hours were nicely sun and 12 hours were night. And really that feeling of totally not seeing this sunlight and getting a feel of looking at the earth, and that too you proudly looked at our country. So what is that feeling, sir, of losing that day and night feeling, sir?
Well, I'll tell you, today all the professionals, most of them, are quite used to working in artificial light, right? And that is why they're all suffering from vitamin D deficiency. Having said that, what we do is that we just pull the blinds down. So night or day ceases to have meaning. Your work day is run on the clock, right? And
Yes.
similarly, when you launch on Moscow time,
Yes.
or as the Indian astronauts would launch on Indian Standard Time, and then they are going to live on Indian Standard Time. So
Yes, sir.
therefore, if you've launched in the evening, your first meal is going to be dinner. So although they are hurtling at 7.3 kilometers per second, there
Yes,
is there's no lag, there's no time lag, there is no travel lag at all. So that's the beauty of it. So and if you when you look down at night, you're able to see all the lights which are there, and and, and during the day, the most wonderful sight is when you see the sunrise, when the sun comes up from behind the crescent. Sir, we
okay.
need to mute some of these mics. There's a lot of crosstalk going on. So, so that is a wonderful sight also because,
That is
and
evening or morning period, we call.
yeah, yeah. So you're seeing the sunrise, which starts off with a thin line, and then it progresses right through the Vibgyor spectrum till the actually sun bursts out, and it happens in a very short period of time, and
Yes,
45 minutes later, the whole spectacle happens in reverse, and if you've missed the sunrise and the sunset, all you got to do is wait another 90 minutes to view either a sunrise or a sunset. So
yes,
so it's a wonderful experience in that sense.
yes, sir. Uh, with your permission, a full few couple of questions, sir. Uh, Actually, this is it's a big change for you, sir, from being a you have been pilot, you have been a great pilot of the country, and you have been from piloting a plane, the feeling from piloting a plane, Air Force plane and these planes, to being a so-called passenger in a pilotless spacecraft.
Yeah, yeah,
Where even the possibly it doesn't require an autopilot to go around. It is just the Earth which is taking you around. The Earth's field or the orbit is a natural orbit, so you don't require any autopilot. Of course, for control of spacecraft, orientation, etc., required. But for the force required or the natural way you go through, you really don't require anything. So you are just a passenger, and from being a pilot to a passenger, sir, that feeling must be really great, sir.
well, let's say that the feeling is different. It is quite like a civil airline pilot, the standby crew traveling as a passenger. So, but that distinction which you bring out is very accurate, yes, and that is the reason why a pilot is a lot more tense when he's at the controls of his aircraft because he
Yes,
is in control. But when he is in space, he's in the hands of the computer. He's not
yes,
in direct control. So therefore, uh, if there are some people who are going to get nervous about that, they are nervous. If others uh, don't think about it because you can do nothing about it, they are not nervous at all. So you're right. In the from the orbital dynamics standpoint, you're being taken for a ride. Your propulsion unit is not working. You're just there, being taken for a ride. And I would I wouldn't say you're a passenger. That would be the likes of Bezos and company and
correct.
space tourists later.
Yes,
We were working professionals in that kind of an environment because I wish we had more time and to enjoy the experience as a tourist would
yes,
in
yes,
the coming few years.
yes,
So that's the difference. And
yes,
yeah, so there it is. But if you ask me, was it worth it? I would say, yeah, sure, it still was worth it.
yes, sir. And lastly, sir, thanks a lot, sir. Lastly, like you have been involved in the prestigious Gaganyaan project of our country, and a lot of efforts are being put in various aspects. The aspects themselves to find out is a very big job of looking for various your experiences, etc. So, just a question that, like we call astronaut in English, or cosmonaut. Would you like to think of a name an Indian name for an astronaut.
Well, I don't really know, you know. In
We
the
have
sense,
to.
it depends on whether in future we decide to be a part of a cooperative venture or we would be going it alone. I personally hope that it'll be the former. If it is going to be the former as part of a cooperative venture, then we um, and if you're going to be carrying, say, deep space exploration from planet Earth, it must reflect in the common noun that you're
Yes.
from where are you? Just being called earthnauts would be most appropriate when you're pushing off thousands, millions of kilometers away to Mars. That would be more. But if you're going to be staying rooted and focused on our planet itself, well, then you can call yourself cosmonauts, taikonauts, spationauts. To call yourself that when you're zillions of kilometers away somehow doesn't make sense to me. So
Yes.
if you're going to be working only as an Indian space traveler, I don't know, you can call yourself Antariksnaut or Hindi, it is Brahmand, call yourself Brahmandonaut.
Brahmayatri.
Gagannaut, I would say, is not appropriate because Gagan is sky.
Right.
You never know, maybe the government of the day will settle on Hindu not. I have no idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
In fact,
Thanks a lot.
that last part of what you said, I'd like to come back later. But Shama, you wanted to show a video. You want to do it at this
Oh yeah,
stage?
maybe. Just thought for the audience, we'll go through a few just to show how what is planetary exploration today, because we have a very diverse kind of spacecrafts going to asteroids, bringing back samples. So just to give a feel for what's happening around in the world, just put together a small
Okay.
video clip. So I'm just going to play that.
Good.
Yeah.
10, 9,
So
8,
that's just one of the PSLV launches.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cartosat 2 series spacecraft injected into orbit. 2 ISRO nanosatellites INS-1A and 1B are injected into orbit.
At a cost of $38 million to operate in the low-gravity vacuum of the moon. The LRV enables the two astronauts to travel across its surface at a maximum speed of 8 miles per hour.
So this video is from the Hayabusa 2, which is a Japanese mission that went to an asteroid called Ryugu. And you can see them touching the asteroid. So it's a touch and go, but they have brought back samples from this asteroid, which is a very old asteroid. So we are actually getting things from 4.6 billion years ago. And so this is a antenna opening in space. So you would appreciate that it's not at all an easy task to have mechanisms work well in orbit. So this was one of the proud moments. So this is a latest of the space tourism part of it. Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, as most of you would have read, are all striving towards making space tourism a reality.
Of course, I would say reality, it is inevitable.
It is, yeah.
It is inevitable because, and this has always, in a way, disappointed me. What I mean is that, science taught us how to split the atom, but what we ended up doing is to make nuclear weapons after that. Medicines, we've discovered penicillin, but what we've ended up doing is that the pharmaceutical industry, because of the patent wars and protectionism and all that, medicines are not available for the use of the common man. So really, it is what we do with space is, to me, more important. And if you're going to just end up monetizing the experience, unmindful of the collateral damage being caused to the near-Earth environment, then we haven't thought through and we haven't learned our lessons. And I hope that that doesn't happen, which is not to say that this experience should be denied to people, but there are better ways of doing it. And I hope that when we do it, when space tourism actually takes off, then we do it differently after taking care of the damages that may accrue to the near-Earth environment.
Yeah. And in fact, we already speak about, because there are so many missions to the moon's south pole in the coming 5 years, including ISRO also has some plans. But there is definitely this Artemis mission, which is NASA's next moon mission. And before that, there is this commercial lunar payload services, which are taking many payloads to this. So there is this question of south pole of the moon is a very pristine environment. And anything that you land there surely causes some contamination or difference to it. And sometimes there are these planetary protection policies in place, but I have not seen that very seriously taken, at least many of the countries, including us. So, and also in Mars, when we talk, particularly Mars, we target to look for life. So again, this becomes a very important aspect, because mostly we take things from here, including microbes, which survive these radiations, and you're sure to take a lot of them along with you. So we already polluted Earth quite a lot. And we don't seem to still grasp the fact, maybe 50 years from now, the temperature of the planet, as we all know, has been going up. We could reach that tipping point where there is no coming back. I don't know, very relevant, but we are thinking short term probably, and right now we just want to do these things.
No, that's what I say. I don't know. We really need to influence behavioral change. I'm quite amazed that on the one hand there is so much progress, there is so much understanding, while on the other there is so much carelessness about ruining your own existence and jeopardizing it. Case in point, you take the way the rainforests are being cut, and what is being freed. The micro environment around there is being freed, and it is joining the mainstream and ending up in various viruses which the human body is really not immune to as yet, and the further effects of the loss of this kind of cover onto climate change. We are seeing that every day. There's so much happening, and we still don't seem to learn. And the governments of the day are responding to it in the only way they know, that is pay taxpayer money to these people. And whereas idea should have been to have preventive kind of interventions rather than kind of giving compensations. So there's a lot to learn, and which is why I would like us to fix our societal norms of all that we have not done or done wrong on planet Earth before we go and settle elsewhere.
Right.
Because instead of making heaven right here on Earth, why go so far off and make another hell there? That's my argument.
That's right.
We have a couple of questions. Should we take them up now?
Oh
Uh,
yes. If you
before
think
I,
there is,
yeah,
yeah.
uh, there's one question. Uh, Let me get to it. Uh, what was it like when you came back to Mother Earth? This is one of our youngsters. Or on the aspect of gravity, which was not there in space. Did you have difficulty to gain balance?
Yeah, yeah. I can answer that on two levels. One would be the physiological level. What really happens is that when you enter zero gravity environment, there's too much blood going to your head and upper extremity. Reason being that the heart is used to pumping against gravity when you're in Earth, and within about 8 9 minutes, you're in zero gravity, and nobody's informed the heart that you've changed your location, so it continues to work at the same rate, and you get too much blood up in the head. Now that's not good. Your tongue swells up and your semicircular canals get gorged with blood, and that kind of triggers space sickness symptoms if they were latent and present in you, and if you've not been trained as we were to condition our vestibular system. And the same physiological changes happen in reverse when you return back into a gravitational environment. While in space, a new normal is achieved because the feedback signal goes to the heart and the heart slows down, and you return back with that new normal. But when you get back into gravity, there's not the gravity makes sure that not enough blood is going to the head, so you feel lightheaded. And also, in space, you didn't need to bother about your vertical because you don't fall. There is no roof, there is no floor. So when you're back again, you need to get back in balance, otherwise you'll be falling on your face. So these changes happen, and you got to adapt to that. But the human body, being the wonderful organism it is, the system it is, it takes about a day and a half to adapt and readapt to Earth's gravity, to adapt to zero gravity and readapt to Earth's gravity.
And
Not, it's not difficult, doable.
will space tourism help us in any way? Help us in any way? Now, before that, I have, from, I don't know whether this is really relevant to this discussion, but purely from a layman's point of view, uh, may I put a couple of questions? Put a
Please,
question?
sir.
Yeah. I was going through a statement that Elon Musk had made recently. So one of the things that I find during the last few years is that apart from governments going into space exploration, private parties who are rich enough, who have got the resources to do that, are coming into space exploration. So you have people like Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and so on. And Musk said some time ago, he said, I'm just quoting him, history is going to bifurcate along two directions. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and then there'll be some eventual extinction. The alternate path is to become a space-faring civilization, a multi-planet species, that will be forced to move out from the Earth, partly, perhaps not wholly, from the Earth to other planets and not live and be dependent entirely on the Earth. And he talks about building cities on Mars. A starship is a rocket and spaceship combination that could ferry more than 100 people. That's what he says. A time to Mars, which is fully reusable. The hardware elements are not discarded, are not allowed to burn up. It's fueled by the combination of liquid methane and liquid oxygen, which calls methalox. The cryogenic methalox of 3,400 tons it can fill, and 9 months each way to Mars and back. And this is the sort of thing which was science fiction. I mean, there are a lot of things which where science fiction have now become reality. So this is the sort of thing which blows our imagination. It's sort of mind-blowing, but which may well be true. He's talking about taking 100% in 2023. Now, what do you think of this? If this sort of thing is going to happen and parties are coming into this field, is there any international agency or international regulatory mechanism to make sure that colonization doesn't, in the way that the Spanish and the French and the English colonized uh, South America and North America and India and so on? Is that going to happen? Or is what's the scenario going to be like? Any thoughts?
Yeah. That's a very provocative question, and I would say that Elon Musk and his kind are wonderful innovators, but they do remain to be business persons, and the only uh, uh, aim of a business house is to make money for its shareholders. And that being so, they will not be really bothered about what happens. You take what is happening on planet Earth itself. The cost of product in the West due to environmental laws has gone up. And that is why manufacturing had shifted to geographies where the environmental laws are either lax or not being enforced adequately. So, what is the net result? The net result is that the environment continues to get damaged, right? So, it doesn't help the environment of the planet. But of course, we might have the scientific capability to go and build habitations on the moon and Mars. But are we going to be doing that constantly? Go to newer places, ruin those environments and move on like nomads used to do earlier? You plunder a place and then you go over to the next place. No, we got the society has to evolve. We have to find newer ways of thinking, and we have to practice sustainable living. And his point is right that we may write ourselves off, that the human genome does not have a backup while we back up all our data very religiously. The only danger, I believe, either we make ourselves extinct by not changing the way we live, by not practicing sustainability, or we get written off by an asteroid hit. Fortunately, we have the science today to prevent asteroid hits. We can go out there, intercept the asteroid, nudge it out of its path so that it misses Earth. We have the technology today. What we do not have is a consensus. What we do not have is the clout of the United Nations, and we do not have that primarily because the world order is being run by rich nations, and the rich nations are capitalistic in thought and action, and capitalism believes in quarter on quarter growth irrespective of the collateral effects on the environment. So that is not sustainable. You cannot, without changing your lifestyle, you cannot practice sustainability on a planet that has limited resources. So our only hope is to clean up our act here and then replicate this improved way of living to wherever we go. And I think that's the only way it should be done. And Shama, if I may request you to try and find some time to get hold of Carl Sagan's clip, which is talking about the blue dot, and he explains it beautifully. Okay, if you can show this to the audience, I am sure they'll be greatly impacted. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll just do
Okay, okay.
Mr.
Thank
Raja,
you.
have I
Thank you.
generally
Yes. Thank you
answered?
very much. Thank you very much indeed. No, I was only wondering whether, in the absence of a consensus, whether there is any move at all on the part of either the United Nations or the major countries to come to some kind of an understanding on space exploration.
Well, it's like this. I think if we just rewind a bit here, and if you look for, say, a single causative factor of strife, of conflict, and of bloodshed for centuries, I think we will be putting our finger on inequity, or shall we say, on how the strong have dispossessed the weak, um, how the rich have become richer and the poor have become poorer, and the numbers of the rich is reducing, the number of the poor is increasing. The problem is that this has given rise to many, in my opinion, failed political systems, whether it is capitalism, socialism, communism, and other allied religious isms. Nothing has worked. And today, I think, in response, we find that there is socio-political unrest all across the world, all over. And that is why I think we are dealing with terrorism today. But I think it is time for a new world order, which is based on humanism. And I must say, give credit where it's due. The United Nations has attempted to capture this thought and has attempted an intervention. It is being done so by the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. And they've come up with an agenda which is titled Space 2030, that is space as a driver of peace. But before that, earlier, what had happened was that there was an exploration treaty, say in 1967, and that treaty came into being. And but today it has 111 signatories, 111 countries have signed up. And the treaty very clearly states that the exploration of outer space shall be done to benefit all countries, and that space shall be free for exploration and use by all the states. So if you look at some of the rich philanthropists who are giving away 90% of their net worth, they are beginning to realize that if we have to coexist, inequity must come to an end. And that's what they're doing. So accordingly, I think that the International Space Exploration Coordination Group, which, or shall we say the ISCCG, it has been formed by 14 space agencies of the world, and ISRO is one of them. And it was a forum that was created to advance global exploration strategy through the coordination of mutual efforts. And I think the reason for that really is that this is beyond the resource capability of any one nation. The space exploration, which we are going to be doing in future, more than one nation will have to collaborate. If every nation tries to develop its individual capability to deliver that kind of output, then it's going to be very, very resource intensive. And so it's going to be bad for the nation itself, and collectively it's going to be bad for the resource potential of planet Earth itself.
Yes.
So really speaking, all I see is that the way I look at it is that all the pieces are already in place for a global peace initiative to end the strife, the conflict, and the bloodshed. It only needs a leader, I think, to realize the United Nations vision of Agenda Space 2030. And I, according to me, and I'm not being nationalistic here, I believe that ISRO really has the credentials, it has the track record, it has the cultural ethos because of our Indian philosophy of the world being one family. Yes, to begin to assume the leadership role of this international space exploration and coordination group. And I think it's time to work towards and contribute towards a new world order, which is now being imagined by the likes of myself.
Thank you very much. I must, this somebody, hello, Someone who is not muted himself.
Oh yeah,
Hello.
there are many. In fact,
There
it's
are quite
very,
a
very
few.
disturbing.
I will have to mute everyone once again and then request the speakers to unmute themselves because otherwise it's very disturbing to those who are speaking. I've just muted everyone. Uh, Shyama,
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Nitin, yeah, fine. So that's fine. Now
Muted.
we
Shama,
have
you're muted.
Yes, yes.
yeah
Yeah.
we
So,
have a little yeah, yeah I can
how
hear
long
you.
do we have now?
We have a little time, I think about 10
Okay.
minutes, during which
All right.
those who want
Okay.
to ask some questions can come in. So
So
I
I'll
don't want
just
to
take
deny them the
yeah, right.
opportunity to interact. So,
I'll just ask from one of the little girls here. She asked, "Did you feel sad that the ride is over?"
You know what? I really, having said all that I've said about space tourists, I don't mind going up as a space tourist because I never had the chance to really enjoy the sights which are available there. You know, I don't know whether I will ever be able to afford the ticket. It's very, very expensive right now. But yes, I would like to go up again. And I did feel sad that the trip was over. It was all work while I was there, all those 8 days. But well, there it is. I did feel sad. And do I want to go up again? Sure, I want to go up again.
so
Thank you.
yeah, anyone else who would like to come in? Yes, yes.
Hello,
Vinay, come in.
hello Rakesh.
Yes,
This is
we can
Vinay Call.
we can hear you. Yes, I can make you up.
Hello
Come in.
Rakesh,
Yeah,
Oh,
you can
hello, sir. Hi. Oh, hi.
you can lower the hand now.
how
Hi.
are you?
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm very well, Vinay. Thank you. I'm very well.
Acha, look, it was very impressed. I thought you have not only a satellite view of the geography of the Earth, but you gave a satellite view of the socio-economic problems that the world is facing.
Absolutely.
And that was very impressive.
You
But
know, Vinay, the thing is that everything is so interconnected that it's really easy to see the big picture if only one gets oneself to see the big picture. It's very easy.
yeah, the other thing was that we've always replayed the video that was shown about your interaction with Indira Gandhi when she asked you, uh, वहां से ऊपर से आपको क्या पृथ्वी कैसी दिखती है? And I thought you could play again that very famous sentence of yours.
That's right.
Sir, that was a borrowed line. And she asked me in the context of how India looked from there. And I must tell you that India looked absolutely stunning from there. Well, so did the African continent, but no African leader asked me that question.
Right.
Thank you, wonderful, and hope to see you someday. It was a virtual meeting today, but I hope we can see each
Yeah,
other.
sure. We haven't traveled thanks to Corona. When this cloud clears up, we will certainly make a
In
trip
fact,
to
quite a
Bangalore.
few are from Bangalore,
Do
and
give us
we hope
do
that
give us a call when you're here.
yeah,
Thank you, sir.
quite a few are
Thank you. Thank you very
quite a few of us are based in Bangalore, and I hope that after things return to some kind of normalcy, we would be able to meet not on Zoom or Google Meet, but face to face someplace.
I look forward to that. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Any other um, comments?
Sir, may I?
Yes,
Uh,
please come in. Who is it?
I am Rajesh Thame.
Yes.
Sir, I was a kid. I used to watch Doordarshan, and I can recall those black and white TV picture in front of my eyes when Mrs. Indira Gandhi asked कि ऊपर से भारत कैसा दिखता है, and you said those lines, It's really great. And I'm very fortunate to talk to you on this virtual meeting. I never thought that I will ever be talk to you in my lifetime, but it's a great opportunity. Thanks to Mr. Singru. Sir, what inspired you to, to go to space and to you come forward for this opportunity? What was your source of inspiration?
Well, I'll be very frank out here, and I had never ever aspired because I'm a bit of a realist, and I never ever aspired or imagined or dreamt that I'll be going up into space. And the reason for that is our country. I was a student myself in class 10, 11, I think, and when Gagarin went up. And so our country was doing nothing in the manned space arena. So, like everybody else around the world, I was hanging on to every printed word that was being written. There was no television in those days, and after that, the subsequent space flights, whether it's National Geographic or Life magazine, such wonderful pictures started appearing, that all of us were captivated by this activity which was going on. But even that did not inspire me because I was too focused on military flying. I always wanted to be a military fighter pilot, and I became one, and I just carried on with my career. It's just that I'm one of those fortunate guys where everything kept falling into my lap. Everything happened on its own, much before its time, and I got a shot. I was picked up to do the test pilots course, and I was always fond of outdoors, being ex-NDA, and I was physically fit. I was young, and I was fit, and I was the right guy at the right place. And they were looking from amongst test pilots for this Indo-Soviet space program. I just happened to be there, and that's how I made it. So I honestly did not try for any of this. It just happened to me. I just had the sense not to step back, and whatever kept coming my way, I kept volunteering for it, but here I am.
We have a few,
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your honest answer.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
We have a few youngsters who just want, who all raise their hands. Maybe they just want to live this moment and, just to be with you and say,
well,
hi.
I want to tell all the youngsters here that you belong to an extremely lucky generation. Within your lifetime, you're going to see momentous changes happening in this arena. I only would like you to remember and learn the lessons which our generation has not learned, and because we haven't learned that, we have endangered your future. So I am banking and counting on you guys to, as you grow up, to become viable pressure groups, so that you're able to influence the governments of the day. You're able to give teeth to organizations like the United Nations, because we need to start improving, developing a new world order, and so that we are all able to live peacefully on this beautiful planet Earth.
I'm trying to spotlight the persons who raised their hands. Harshita Balla. Harshita, you're right on center stage. You can say hello.
Hi, Harshita.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you.
Sir, good evening. My name is Bhalla.
Hi.
I'd like to take you down to your memory lane up to 11 BRD.
Oh, I see. Okay.
My father was serving with you, Wing Commander J.C. Bhalla. You were deputed in HL and he was with 11 BRD.
Right.
So,
right. Good.
Nice seeing you after such a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I was there first in the mid 70s, then in the mid 80s. Yes, I was there.
Yes, sir. So just wanted to ask you one question. Was since you have been career has been into flying military aircrafts, sitting in those cramped up cockpits of the aircraft, and in terms of the spacecraft, what difference do you find, and in terms of human experience?
Well, I had explained it a bit earlier that your focus is a lot more required when you are flying a military aeroplane, because in the military aircraft you are essentially, I was a single seat pilot, jockey. So you're all alone, and you have this hunk of metal which is very powerful, and all the controls are in your hands. So that's a lot more exciting, I would still say. Whereas the job in while in space, the environment is different. Your life is being governed by a computer, and but however the view is different, the work is different. So well, things are different. So there are the good sides, and then there are the bad sides. But you need, as a good professional, you must strive to remain focused wherever you are, whether or not the job is interesting. I think it's very, very expensive, all this space stuff, and naturally you must make sure that everybody gets their bang for the buck. You know.
So Arushi and Radhika, you can just say hi.
Hi, sir.
Hi, hi, hi.
Okay.
Hi, Radhika.
Radhika.
Who's going to go first, Arush?
Yeah, I go first.
Yeah, tell me.
So like, I wondered, like, before you had gone to space, like, did you have to do any kind of simulations or something like that to, like, let you experience how it would be in space?
You see, it was all piecemeal. When I say piecemeal, what I mean is that you cannot replicate zero gravity on Earth. You can only replicate it in an aeroplane for not more than 20 seconds by making the aeroplane go through a particular maneuver, which is called a bunt, which it goes nose over. Okay, so for about 20 to 25 seconds, within the aeroplane, which has got all padded inside, you're floating around. That's so you get a sense of what zero gravity is going to be like. It is not a steady state condition where physiological changes can occur. Then again, on the centrifuge, you experience high G forces. Okay, so that is another part of your experience. And then you're going to be, your head is going to move around, and your ears are going to, semicircular canals are going to make you kind of sick, and that you sit and train on a chair. So these things all come together when you go up into space, and this becomes a combined experience. But you have trained for it. Rest is all adaptation, and the greatness of the human body to adapt.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Radhika. Can't hear you, Radhika.
Radhika.
I was always a fan of space, so I always wanted to be an astronaut. But you launched into space 4 days after my dad was born.
Oh, wonderful.
Really?
Yeah.
Radhika, you're making me feel like an old man, which
I thought
I'm
you were
not
singing
young
a song.
anymore.
Very sweet voice. Wow.
Okay, good, Radhika. Nice to hear you. Nice to see you.
Here
All
is
the
one-
best to you.
Here is one young man. Here is another young man here. Right. Now, with that, we're running out of time. So, I'd like to thank both Nitin Katpade and Shyama for having conducted a very, very rewarding, interesting discussion with Rakesh Sharma.
Thank you.
In fact, I think Shyama has done a lot of work on this, preparing
Yes,
for
yes.
this.
She has
Yes.
He has been discussing with Nitin, and together they have sort of worked out schedule. And I know about it. They've really prepared for this, done a wonderful job.
Yeah. And
Incidentally,
Shama also gave me a heads up. Thank you, Shama.
Incidentally,
thank
Shyama is also my
you
niece.
so much.
Shyama is my niece, but
I see. Well,
he's
there
here.
you.
She is
There
here
you
not
are.
because of that. She is here in her own right
Yes.
as a
I know, I
scientist.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Genetic makeup. I understand.
I would request Anil Kumar Singru, Anil Singru. Anil, you are a very unique individual. You've been in Army, Navy, and Air Force, and you've been in various groups which are interested in physics, astrophysics, astronomy, stargazing, and so on. Amateur astronomy group, the a group called Astrobits, and Nashik HAL group. So Anil, please come in and propose the vote of thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Where are you? Let me
Can you
spotlight
see
you.
me, sir? And can you hear me?
No,
No, I
we can
can't hear
just hear
you.
you, Anil.
You
I
can't hear
would.
me?
I can hear you, but I can't
No,
see you.
I can hear you. We
One
can't
second.
see
One
you.
sec, one sec.
So you
I'll
can go to the participants list and you can find it.
come in. Yes.
I can. Yeah, Anil, you're on.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you very much for a very, very engaging and enlightening session today. And I'm so happy to see a large number of young participants in the show today, sir. We always thought that when we speak of space, astronomy, I hold live sessions here, and I find when I say I'm, taking out my telescope and going to show you Moon or Jupiter, almost all the parents, they say, okay, fine, we are sending our children to you. Because our generation thinks that space and astronomy is something for either the scientists, like the people who are sitting in ISRO, or it is for children, and it is not for us. But I think, sir, by coming here on this show here and talking to people who are present, the message which goes is that this is something which is for everyone.
Yeah.
And sir, I like most of us are from generation who are sitting in front of the black and white TV, and when you uttered those words, "Sare jahan se acha," which gave a different dimension, a different perspective to these four words, sir. We always thought proud, and Iqbal has said कि India is sare jahan se acha. But when you said those words, sir, the entire orientation changed.
Yes, sir.
Our generation, the future generation, everybody starts thinking of India as a space power, who was sent up representative into space, and who is looking at India from up there. That was a defining moment, I think, in the life of every Indian, sir. So with this, I think this today's session has been very engaging, and I would love to let it go on with the kind of questions which I